3 of the NBL Hummer Championship semifinal, and the Sydney Kings, who breezed through the regular season with a 27-3 record and were dominant in Game 1, take on the Perth Wildcats, who have hit top form at the right time and have given Sydney all they can handle. It's East versus West, glamour versus blue-collar worker, and after tonight, there will only be 2, and that will be against the Melbourne Tigers. I'm Steve Carfino, along with the great one, Andrew Gaze, and we have been talking about, let's have a good series. Well, we got one right here. It's had it all.
We certainly have. I can't tell you how excited I am for this game. Not since the day when I was actually pulling on the boots have I looked forward to a game as much as this one here tonight. Hopefully it lives up to our expectations. There is no doubt the Perth Wildcats would be worthy grand finalists as we take a look at their starting lineup. And it's been a pretty impressive one we've seen so far. In the front court, we've got the man, the MVP of the series so far, Sean Redditch, Paul Rogers in the middle, and Alex Loughton, who's down on his regular season averages, only averaging 8 points. Gerald Brown, he's been the glue, like I mentioned before. Peter Crawford shooting the lights out of it from the perimeter, averaging 20 points throughout the series. Off the bench, we've got Adam Caporn, Jeff Dowdell, Mike Hommick, Brad Robbins, the feisty little Brad Robbins, and Ben Hunt.
All right, for the Sydney Kings, they are feeling this. They have been super dominant here at the Kingdome, and they'll go with a very good lineup, of course. In their front court, they'll go with Ian Crosswhite, and he needs to come up big against Paul Rogers. Mark Worthington is back in the lineup after his 1-game suspension, and Glenn Saville, who's come out aggressive in the first 2 games. In the backcourt for the Sydney Kings, Jason Smith is back. He made it clear he is going to start, and he is going to be a factor in this game. And nobody believes in themselves more than Luke Kendall, and he'll have to have some belief tonight. They need him to come up big also. The bench is where the Sydney Kings are strong, super deep. B.J. Carter shoots the basketball from the perimeter. Dante Draper gives them the spark and the creativeness off the bench. Russell Hinder gives them another solid big. Blake Borgia probably won't play. Let's go to Cam Tovey. He should get some minutes. And of course, the tip jamming of Isaiah Victor gives them an extra little bounce. It's the dance before the big dance. Kings, Wildcats, Game 3. We are just about underway. Super atmosphere here in Sydney so far. The people that are here are making a lot of noise. Two teams that match up well. They're going at it. Single coverage. Luke Kendall launches up a 3. That rims out. Ball goes off of Paul Rogers, and that should stay with the Kings. It does.
Good shot by Luke Kendall. He shoots a lot of threes. He takes and has made more 3-pointers than he has 2-pointers throughout the regular season. So he's not going to be shy from beyond the arc.
Jason Smith. They kick it out to Luke Kendall. He puts it on the floor, tries to get to the rim. Saville to Worthington with his first catch and shoot. It's way off the mark.
The rebounding contest, a foul there to Ian Crosswhite, and perhaps a few nerves by Mark Worthington. The weight of the world on his shoulders, having missed Game 2. And he spoke about having a little bit of insomnia. If you have a look at his eyes, I agree with him. He looks like he needs a kip, Steve.
Right, maybe his vision's a little blurry. You know, if I was Sean Redditch, I would have said, hey, nice shot, man. I would have just, you know, made him feel a little bit more uncomfortable. That's not much sportsmanship, but hey, whatever it takes. Redditch, who's been on fire here, puts the ball on the floor. Saville picks him up. He's grabbed him illegally. Sean Redditch has been a thorn in the Sydney Kings side.
A big factor in tonight's game is the way the officials are going to call the games. We take a look at the air ball. Good look by Mark Worthington, but way off. And then we saw the foul on Ian Crosswhite.
That is nothing other than nerves. Peter Crawford with good pressure from Worthington as he gets the rebound. Puts it on the floor. Nice pass to Ian Crosswhite for the jam. Great pass by Mark Worthington. As Crawford puts it on the floor and Perth get the inbound quickly. Kings draw first blood. They get it into Paul Rogers, who's been the focal point early in all the games that they've played so far. Crawford goes left, knocks over Mark Worthington, and Worthington, after an air ball, makes a good pass and then makes a good defensive play.
And that's Mark Worthington's game. We saw him in game 1 where he only had the 5 points, but he does so much more than put points on the board. Here we take a look at Mark in a good defensive position, and Peter Crawford, with the slightest of nudges, gets pinged for the offensive foul. Again, off the ball, we see a foul called on Paul Rogers already. The officials making their mark on the game, which is fair enough. All the fouls are there.
Well, they're pretty even.
Sometimes
2 fouls each, 4 fouls in less than 2 minutes.
You're always concerned about the fouls that they make, but or the fouls that they call. It's sometimes the ones they don't call. And again, we've got Sean Redditch, as we saw in game 1, breaking out and running the floor. Great pass by the Perth Wildcats, and an easy 2 to ease the nerves. Just that little bit of the Perth Wildcats as they get on the board to level the score up at 2 points all. Jason Smith, who a week ago, the nasty shoulder, his right shoulder too, but he's back in action tonight. And again, Sean Redditch, coast to coast. The big fella can motor down the court, Steve, and the Perth Wildcats do a good job of identifying the streaky Sean Redditch. Have a look at the pass. Perfect pinpoint accuracy to get it to Sean Redditch. And he's fouled and goes to the line to shoot 2.
There will be some adjustments throughout this game. For one, Perth are going to have to continue to find ways to get Sean Redditch the ball. He has just been in sensational form. We'll touch on that a little bit later. And Scott Fisher, who said he had a lot of nerves going into this game, and why not? This is a huge game and just an unbelievable pickup for Perth if they're able to win this series. And they have played well enough to do it.
Who would have thought Sean Redditch was running around in the ABA not too long ago? Great pickup, as you mentioned, Steve. And there's Mark Worthington getting his first points of the basket of the game. And I bet you internally there's a huge sigh of relief going on in his body.
Yeah, that very easily could have trickled out. Good dribble penetration by Gerald Brown. And Paul Rogers can't clean it up. Luke Kendall with a little crossover dribble and a floater of his own. Cross wide on the offensive glass. Worthington puts it on the floor. Another floater for Mark Worthington is good. 2 little shots squeeze in. Then he gets the steal. Worthington to Jason Smith for 3. Bingo! Sydney Kings on a defensive play for Mark Worthington.
Check out the emotion of Jason Smith. If the crowd's not firing up enough already, Jason Smith doing a little bit of cheerleading as well. Off the ball, and it's an offensive foul off the ball. This time on Sean Redditch, bowling over Mark Worthington. And Wortho there just jumping in the path of Redditch.
And Mark Worthington gets it, picks up a cheapie, but it has been the Mark Worthington show. 2 charges, 2 floaters, and an assist. Right into Worthington. He gets a good steal and the score. The jitters are gone, and Mark Worthington has arrived here in game 3.
Danger signs for the Perth Wildcats early on. They've only got the 4 points. They're struggling to get some points on the board. The Sydney Kings have got 11, and Scott Fisher says, we need to have a chat about what's going on here to try and stop the rot.
Great play by Mark Worthington and the Sydney Kings. And right away, the Perth Wildcats throw up the alarm bells, call a timeout after the Sydney Kings have gone on a 9-0 run.
We gotta survive this. We're gonna fail. I know you're foul. It's a bad call there. We gotta expect that. Well, we know it's coming, so it's tough.
We're playing for fouls and throws.
That's right.
Play tough.
We gotta play strong. We gotta fight through it. Okay? We still want to look to go inside, go outside. You have to just go spur this next time. Go spur this next time. Defensively, though, we're getting guys open. We're getting guys open because there seems to be a little bit of a lack of talk. We got to have somebody committing to the ball, but we got to be able to see both. You know, so if you're in blue, somebody's got to be responsible for every man, and you got to know where they are. Let's go.
And Man, it's going to be a long night for Perth during the timeouts. That little group right next to their bench is going absolutely crazy. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of people here, but the ones that are here are making a lot of noise.
Decent crowd, Steve. I'd say around 4,500. Great atmosphere, though. They're right into it, the fans. And one thing Scott Fisher was talking about is some of the fouls that have been called against the Perth Wildcats. They need to be smart. If the refs are blowing them that way, no point complaining about them. Just got to play as the way the referee's going to call them. Run around the defense instead of trying going through them.
Exactly. Loudson puts it on the floor. A lot of defense from Crosswhite. Worthington playing like a man possessed. Gets the rebound and kicks it to Kendall.
Wasn't a good shot coming out of the timeout. When they desperately need points, they trail it by 8. Loughton's been down throughout this series, only averaging the 8 points a game as compared to the 15 throughout the regular season. But look at Mark Worthington again with the assist. Great ball movement. He gives Steve Cuthbert a little how you going.
Yeah, he was a glare. It was. I thought it was aimed at you.
No, it was definitely you, Stephen.
And whatever it takes, because he is playing like a man I haven't seen play before in a semifinal. Redditch is fouled. He'll go to the line. And Redditch, who has shown a lot of mental toughness in games 1 and 2, after a couple of shady calls, he'll get himself to the free throw line.
Again, Steve, not a great possession for the Perth Wildcats. It just took some individual work by Sean Redditch. They trail by 10. If they're going to come down and quick shoot in this situation, this thing can blow out very, very quickly. They need good shots. And there we see Sean Redditch once again breaking the foul plane. They never pick him up for that, and neither should they, but technically it's a violation because he's going over the line, and there's a bit of luck bouncing the way of the Perth Wildcats as Paul Rogers gets a tip in.
Luke Kendall gets it into Worthington, who's been the man with a Midas touch after that air ball. Jason Smith to Crosswhite. He runs over Peter Crawford.
Yes, he did. I like the way the Sydney Kings are playing. You can see, if we take a look at the replay here, Ian Crosswhite just a little out of control. Didn't quite collect the ball cleanly and is called for the foul. Substitutions for the Sydney Kings. Dante Draper and Russell Hinder coming in for Ian Crosswhite and Jason Smith. But the way the Sydney Kings are running their cuts, they're setting their picks, there's a level of speed and athleticism that is showing. There's no hesitation. Real dominant performance so far by the Sydney Kings.
Brown has been super in the first 2 games with his efficient play, backing down Dante Draper. Tough shot and good D by Dante Draper. That'll be a shot clock violation by the Perth Wildcats. Still not a great possession for Perth.
Terrible. Just a one-on-one, 1-4 flat, let Gerald Brown go to work. That's not their best option. You'd like to see them get it through a few sets of hands, but just some great D by the Perth Wildcats, making every pass, every possession an absolute war.
Draper gets it to Saville, yet to take a shot for Sydney. And he runs over Sean Redditch, no call, and Saville reloads and knocks down a 3. Perth trying to get the basketball before Sydney's defense is set. Redditch has 4 guys on him. He still gets the ball over the rim. Fouls on Glenn Saville, who can't believe the call. We'll get another look.
Just swiping at it. Well, push, I guess. It was Kendall that swiped at it. But that's Glenn Saville's 3rd personal foul. So danger signs there as we see Cameron Tovey, getting ready to check in. I'm sure he's coming in for Sav. And again, Sean Redditch, who's been very, very good from the free throw line and throughout the playoffs. 88%. That's his 3rd miss for the night.
And Perth been taking care of business at the free throw line as a team in this series. 75%. Sydney's been struggling a little bit from the foul line.
Yes, they have. They've only shot 23 of 39, 59%. As you mentioned, the Wildcats 75% from the free throw line.
Worthington, after a bump, shoots the jump shot, and it's good. So far, the matchup with him and Sean Redditch has been Mark Worthington. Not fair because they haven't really matched up on one another. Worthington's got Loughton. Crawford throws it right into the hand of Luke Kendall. Then he gets a three off. That misses. Wildcats get the loose ball. Brown. Pull-up jump shot from 17.
Oh, and they've waved the points off, and they've called an offensive foul on Paul Rogers.
This has been a nightmare for the Perth Wildcats.
Rogers just going to the glass. As you can see it, good shot, and that's a flop. Mark Worthing just tumbles down on the ground, and you'd have to say the Sydney Kings so far getting the benefit of the doubt from the officials.
No doubt. Got to play through that. As you mentioned before, it usually turns, but don't want to get behind by too many against the Sydney Kings. They're like a machine on the offensive end. Victor on a pull through. That's a charge. And Perth get a call on their flop. It's going to be a flop night.
That was probably less of a flop, but I'm not sure he had sound position coming across to his left. On the basis of what we've seen down the other end, it had to be called a charge.
Let's just say that every time somebody has fallen, there's been a foul call.
So far, Glenn Saville got away with a little nudge there that someone fell, but...
Yeah, you're right, and then Mark Worthington got away with one.
A little one, which were probably the correct no calls. Tough on the officials. And you see bodies flying around.
This game was always going to be tough to officiate. It's been very physical. Robbins on a nice pass to Redditch, who misses a sitter. Although he was fouled, that's one he will gobble up.
Most definitely. He threw that up as if Shaquille O'Neal was in the middle there ready to block it. Just needed to power that up. Always going to the basket. Like you said, Steve, did get fouled, but they're the ones you need to make, particularly when you trail it by 12.
Those are the freebies.
And points are coming in a premium.
And he's struggling from the line.
Right now, the formula is not right for the Perth Wildcats. When they've been able to contain the Sydney Kings in two of the losses, the two wins that the Perth Wildcats have had, they've held the Sydney Kings to two of their lowest scores of the season, 84 and 85 in their two wins over Sydney. Already, the Kings have got 19, and they're getting it done on the offensive end.
Victor gets it to Draper, who splits the D, kicks it back to Russell Hinder for three. That's short. Gets the offensive rebound in the putback. Nobody gets on the shooter.
You look for signs out in the game, and that's not a good sign for the Wildcats when Russell Hinder can go all the way and get the offensive glass off his own shot.
And then Sean Redditch gets the reply on the other end. Nobody picks him up, and he goes the length of the floor for a layup.
If effort and energy is any indication of this game, it's about 2-1 in favor of the Sydney Kings.
Tovey on a pull-up jump shot. Boy, that was not a good result, obviously, but...
Jeez, off the ball. Cam Tovey had Sean Redditch in a full Nelson, and they let that one go, Steve.
Very physical. Isaiah Victor with the hands on Alex Loughton.
Who's going to call it? 25. 2-5. 2.
There we saw the end of it. It was just a fraction before we saw Sean Redditch able to get out of the hold and work his way free. Very difficult game for the referees. Yeah, you see, there it is all locked up. I mean, gee whiz, Steve.
And he's playing for the foul as well. I mean, he hasn't had as much success as the Sydney Kings, but I mean, he's flopping around there like he's, you know, on his last leg. But why wouldn't you? It's worked for Mark Worthington so far.
Yeah, well, I saw that play from the start, Steve. And I reckon Sean Redditch was just a little unlucky.
We'll agree to disagree, as usual. Isaiah Victor. Russell Hinder puts it on the floor, gets it to Jason Smith. That's a tough one. He's fouled. He'll go to the line. Brad Robbins would like to have that one back.
Jason Smith seemingly showing no ill effects to his shoulder problems.
Here we go, guys.
Might be a little bit of fluid being into that shoulder just to get him through.
9 fouls at the Sydney Kings, 6 to the Perth Wildcats.
15 fouls already in the first quarter. No problem with a lot of the fouls that have been called. Some conjecture about the offensive ones.
Well, you got to understand that the referees don't want this game to get out of hand, so.
But if the game's out of hand, Steve, a foul's a foul. You can't just pick and choose when you're going to call a foul.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the referees all night. I promised some of my official friends that I wouldn't do that.
With 15 fouls called already, it's a factor.
Here you go.
You're making it very difficult for me not to. Brad Robbins, as they try and plug up the leaky boat here in the first quarter. Sydney Kings 23-11. Redditch starting to get into his flow. Caporn to Brad Robbins. Good ball reversal, but the Sydney Kings D's tough, loose ball for Sydney. Nice pass to Isaiah Victor. He'll slow it down and get it to a guard. Draper for 3 in rhythm. That rims out. Paul Rogers has the ball knocked away by Isaiah Victor. Kings reload on this possession. Ball reversal to Isaiah Victor. Draper again. Nice move. And that ball rims out again. Jeff Dowdo with some hands in the back of Cam Tovey.
I'd like to see that move by Dante Draper again. I couldn't see his feet from this angle, but that was a super quick move. So quick. And just a great move. Put the ball to the floor.
And he did it to a very good defender in Brad Robbins. Shook him out of his boots. Tovey, former Perth Wildcat.
The Perth Wildcats are going to win this game. They need big games from Paul Rogers and Alex Loughton. I mean, everyone's got to step up, but their inside presence, that's a critical factor.
Sydney Kings on those ball rotations were just up and in on every pass. Redditch into Rogers. Nice backdoor cut, but Dante Draper reads it. Still has a live dribble, gets it to Jason Smith for 3. His shoulder looked fine. Robbins, dribble penetration. Russell Hinder with the block shot, but he's out of bounds. Sydney has all the answers. Dante Draper, watch his feet. Oh man, no wonder he shook. No wonder he shook Brad Robbins. And you said,
look too quick. Yeah, that's a walk.
Kings getting it done, 28-11. The Perth Wildcats over in their timeout. And that is what they're up against. These guys are in their ears with these blowhorns and making all kind of noise as we check in on the Sydney Kings.
On the post-up. Be aware of Vic on the post-up in DC, all right? And then you got sideline pick and roll. All right, on the reversal.
Be great, boys. Tight now.
Now, defense. Vic, your guy's taking the ball out of bounds. All right, you got to help on that. Just see ball and man. They're bringing somebody off these 2 picks. So just plug that up.
You want me to say take that goal, right?
No, outside. Outside.
But just watch him coming inside. You might have to follow him around a little bit.
They'll be lock and trail. You're just helping on the curl. All right? Some DC here. Real good minutes, no foul. Okay. No
Perth
foul.
Wildcats.
Good 2 minutes.
They got their hands full on the offensive end. They're only shooting at 30% from the field. And a couple of players that have been big so far, not getting too many opportunities. Peter Crawford has averaged 20 points a game throughout this series. He's yet to score, 0 for 2 from the field. Great defensive effort by the Sydney Kings. And another turnover. That's the 7th turnover to the Perth Wildcats. They're shell-shocked.
Sydney Kings' pressure has been relentless. You know, a couple of calls that go their way, but for the most part, they have been on every loose ball and on every rotation defensively. Their D has been the difference. Perth trying to crank it up on the defensive end. Draper on the wings, looking for Isaiah Victor. He's got him. Victor to Russell Hinder. Skip passes to Cam Tovey. Puts it on the floor. His runner is blocked out of bounds. 1 second left on the shot clock.
How good a job that the Sydney Kings doing when they're penetrating, knowing where their releases are. Great skip pass then to Tovey.
Jason Smith before the shot clock expires. Kings executing in every facet of the game.
We're on the verge of a blowout here, Steve.
Caporn to Redditch. They get it into Paul Rogers down on the block. Brad Robbins with a 3. That's short. Rogers on the offensive glass. Cam Tovey's underneath his legs.
Every single play, it's like pulling teeth to get a good shot off for the Perth Wildcats. And Paul Rogers just thrown off balance there, and he's going to go to the line to shoot 2. Throughout his career, just over 50%. And when you take a look at his free throw shooting technique, you can see why he's not the most reliable conveyance of the ball.
Why don't you just say hello to John Casey?
Well,
go ahead.
I don't. He'd be down here, isn't it? Mardi Gras weekend here.
Oh, okay.
John Casey getting amongst it.
And Mark Bradkey designing their float.
No, just kidding. To the great man. He sets the standards when it comes to commentary. That's why we use all his Caseyisms.
And there the Sydney Kings, through their process, get one to Isaiah Victor. 32-12 here in the first quarter. Loughton into Paul Rogers. Gets one in the back from Russell Hinder. Draper gets the air ball. Here comes Sydney in transition. Skips it to Tovey. He goes all the way to the lane. He's hammered.
There is a level of frustration with the Perth Wildcats, which is indicative of their 20-point deficit. Here we see Cam Tovey got whacked early on by Alex Loughton. You could have wrapped
Sydney doing it easy.
Eventually call a foul on.
Wow. First quarter, Mike Hummock comes in for the Perth Wildcats.
And let's remember, Joe Shipp is not on the roster for the Perth Wildcats. He's been suspended for this semi-final series. If the Wildcats happen to get through to take on the Melbourne Tigers, it's our understanding that he'll be reinstated. Apparently he missed a very important practice session.
And Isaiah Victor has just walked out the tunnel and out into the locker room. We'll have to check on the progress of that as the Perth Wildcats try and come up with something before the first quarter ends, and that is not it. A pass by Peter Crawford that lands in the second row.
They are rattled, the Perth Wildcats. I just noticed Jason Smith grimacing a little bit with his shoulder. He looks to the bench. That's not a good sign for the Sydney Kings.
Draper looks for Worthington. Little contact from Alex Loughton. Worthington with a bullet to Russell Hinder, but it's tipped out of bounds by Mike Hummock. Kings spreading those minutes around. Jason Smith catch and shoot. A little short off the iron. Cam Tovey drops the hammer on Alex Loughton.
No disrespect to Mike Hummock, but Scott Fisher just trying every option available. Mike Hommick only played the 7 games throughout the regular season. Taken 7 shots, he's 2 of 7 with 28%. So I'm sure he didn't figure all that prominently on Brian Gordon's scouting report.
No, he wouldn't even have been a blip on the radar. That would have been about it.
The surprise element.
Yeah, good.
Give a guy an opportunity.
Easy over there.
I'm just saying.
The Perth Wildcats free throws just 8 of 14 from the line. As you can see, the field goal percentage 3 of 12 for the Perth Wildcats. At some point, you just got to say, you got to make shots. Dante Draper with a bank shot. Oh, when it rains, it pours. And it's pouring here in Sydney as the Sydney Kings blow out a 36-point quarter here in the first. 36-14 over the Perth Wildcats in Game 3 of the semifinal. Well, Sean Redditch was going to have to come up big for the Perth Wildcats to get a win. And also for the Sydney Kings, they've got it going with Ian Crosswhite on a nice pass from Wortho.